So now that I've completed my grid, so I've obviously got a very tiny little mini version here, but however big yours is, it's time to then make the strands for you to weave, which is basically making a load of little crocheted chains. So I'm just going to snip this one off so I can do another one with you. And all it is just as if you were making our foundation chain, just making loads of lengths of that. Now you need to make sure that they are big enough to, without stretching them, long enough to go right through the whole length of your blanket, and some extra at the end because we're going to use the extra at the end for tassels. So chain however many long. When I did mine, I needed to chain around 200 to make them long enough. And that was giving myself plenty of leeway in case they needed to be longer than that. So it was probably way too much, but I'd rather have too much than not enough. And then snipping off, putting the yarn through the loop so that you've secured that chain. So that you've got lots of little ribbons of chains. And then all you're doing is weaving in and out of your grid. So if I pull it through, I'm going over a strand and then under, over and under and over. And I just made sure that they were all laying flat in the same direction. And then the next row, I need to do the opposite. So because I've gone over this strand here, I now need to go under it. So I'm going to pull it underneath. And the next one is over, so I'm doing the opposite to what I did in that previous row. Like so. And I keep going, doing the same number of these woven rows as I crocheted. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows crocheted. I need to do 5 rows in the colour that I'm using. Now I did it the same order, so I crocheted in an order of colour and then I wove in that same order of colour, so you get a point where they cross over. And that is basically the technique. And then what I did at the end, and you can find your own way of doing the tassels, it's entirely up to you. I undid my the end of my chain. I can find where the end is. And then I just got it back to the edge of that chain being in line with the edge of the blanket. And then I threaded it through into the end here. I used a wool needle and brought that end up through here to secure it. So I'm almost like stitching it to that end piece here. And then leave that tassel hanging. And did the same on every single one. And then I just added in an extra set of 2. So if I just get a little bit more here, I had some extra cut ends which I folded in half and then just added that into the end of my blanket like that, so that along with the end of the chain plus the 2 I've added, I was able to plait and make my tassels that way. You could equally just knot them at the end like this, form a knot right at the edge of your blanket and leave the tassels flowing and just cut them all to the same length. So you can play around with what you could do with the tassels. So yeah, I hope that helps. Just support with the pattern that I've written, some of those final touches to complete your Cro-weave blanket.